Hi there, welcome to Let's Talk Tottenham. Very downbeat today. Should have beaten Liverpool on, in terms of that second half, had them beat, and just another lackluster first half. It's caught up with us now. We've got lucky with it so far. It's caught up with us now. But here to discuss it with me, Marlon from South View, a view from the South Stand. How you doing, Marlon?
I'm good as can be personally, but football-wise, we'll get into it.
Yes, as you can tell, it's probably ain't going to be a particularly happy episode, but we'll only be about an hour, so at least it's not too depressing for too long. First things first, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe. Really helps the channel. Also, the notification bell as well. You'll be notified whenever we go live. You don't have to remember the days and the times. And get your comments in. Let us know what you thought about the game, the talking points, the Champions League draw, which we'll be talking about next as well, and anything else Spurs. So, get involved in the chat. And hit that like and subscribe. Marlon's got his own channel, View from the South Stand. It's in the description, but it'll let you know at the end where you can find that and what to expect on there as well. First things first, rather than get into the doom and gloom, let's look forward. Milan in the Champions League draw.
Could save that one till last.
That's the breaking news today, isn't it? But here is a draw. Leipzig City, Bruges, Benfica, Liverpool, Madrid. A repeat of last year's final. Milan, Spurs, Frankfurt, Napoli, Dortmund, Chelsea, Inter, Porto, and big boys PSG v Bayern Munich. What are your first thoughts of the draw? For me, we could have got one of the big boys. We've escaped a couple of the big boys, the Madrid, Munich, PSG. Could have got a better one. Bruges, obviously, is the one on paper you'd want, but if you want to be the best, you've got to beat the best. And Milan, I don't think, is a bad draw considering who we could have got. And I always prefer away from home first, because then if you get a good result there, then you've got the ball with your home fans. You've got something to play for. But what are your thoughts on the draw and getting Milan?
It was probably, if I'm being honest, it was probably the team I was hoping for. Big name, but probably not the Milan of old.
No.
I think if we would have got Club Brugge or someone a lot, as they say, a favourable tie, I think we'd have messed it up. As we messed up the group. But now the players have now got to go to do a big occasion and a big place like the San Siro. And this is what the players have come in for. It's time to find out who in this Spurs squad is good enough. I think we know who's good enough, personally, but we're about to find out who the characters are in this team.
But it could be different, couldn't it? Because this is, I'm assuming it's in February. I'm assuming the Champions League knockouts timings haven't changed. And if we're to be believed that we've seen on Twitter and stuff, if we're to be believed, we're going to be making January signings. So it could be a few people out, a few people in. But exactly what you say. Big game, big stadium. See what they're made of. We have beaten them before as well in the Harry Redknapp era. We went 1-0 up there and then 0-0 at home.
Yeah. The only positive is that obviously seeing how Chelsea played against them, Chelsea are just as bad as we are. So that's the positive to look at it. And Conte knows the Italian football, if he's still here by then as well. But that's the way to look at it. We've got a chance. Oliver Giroud is one of their main strikers. Tomori he's a good player, but don't get me wrong, he's going to be up against Kane. I expect Kane to be. We'll have a fit son as well. He's not looking at the World Cup as well. It's Kulusevski.
He'd have had a vest because Sweden aren't in it.
Bentancur will be looking to prove something as well in Italy. It's actually quite a big occasion for quite a lot of our players, depending on who. We'll chat about the other side that we don't like probably in the next hour. But it's a good time for us, and it's a case of they're beatable, but don't Spurs it up.
No. And you've got a Liverpool or Real Madrid going out, a PSG or a Bayern Munich going out. So if you can win, not talking about winning it here, but you look at these things and if you do get through to the next round, you've got at least two big boys that you're going to avoid because of who they're playing in the next round.
I look at it like this. The draw was more favourable for Man City. Man City came out of that draw, and with all the teams who were playing each other, they came out of it going, well, in the next round, you got two big boys already going out already. If they come up against an English team, let's be honest, at the present moment, depending on the time, they'll murder all of us. So the only team that they'll struggle against will be Liverpool, but Liverpool or Real Madrid will be the team they struggle against, and they're both playing each other. So for us, we've just got to hope and pray that we get favourable draws like we did when we got to the final. But again, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not asking.
It's what this team do to you, don't they? You know, put you in a bad mood. But Ian in the chat, how you doing, Ian? Great to meet you yesterday as well for the first time. Really great to meet you. And fortunately, it was under good circumstances when I met you because it was before the game. But if I'd have met you afterwards, it wouldn't have been under good circumstances. But yeah, not playing well, but still in Champions League and top 4. Not all doom and gloom. And Mark Cousins, the quad is still on.
Mark, I love the positivity. I love it. I like Mark. He's a good guy.
And Has from Hasper TV, how you doing, buddy?
I wanted to give a big shout out to Hasper for saving my bacon yesterday and presenting our channel. Thank you, Has. You literally saved my bacon.
Yeah, Hasper TV, that is obviously a view from the South Stand, which we'll be talking about later on as well. Right, that's the kind of positives out of the way. There is one more positive, which we'll get to a bit later on, but the negatives, these poor starts, not just a poor start, you know, the first 20 minutes. What is happening in these first halves? For me, it's I know the players are saying Conte's telling us to attack. It's been too long now. I don't buy that for a second.
No.
And, you know, if Conte's going out on TV saying I'm telling them to attack, you're not going to go out and then call Conte alive on TV. You'll be dropped and shot. And what is going on? Why is it taking... It must be about 2 months now. We got away with it against Bournemouth, got away with it 2 games in Champions League, got away with it, or didn't get away with it against Newcastle, didn't get away with it against Man United, didn't get away with it with Arsenal, and now Liverpool. What do you put it down to?
I definitely think it's Conte's tactics. It's if it's happening on more than one occasion, and he's telling them to attack, it's kind of getting to a point where you go, it's got to be Conte and what he's telling them. But at the same time, I can understand it as well. I've been thinking long and hard about this, and obviously yesterday I got a lot of opinions on when I was doing the watch along with our Tottenham team and a lot of post-match fan of their reception to it. I've watched a lot of streams the last day or so, and I'm putting it down to, and I'm going to put it down to this: he doesn't trust our back three, and he's worried that if we go out all attack in that first 20 minutes, it'll expose them, and the team won't be able to. They'll lose a lot of energy if we're going to go 1 or 2-0 down, and it could end up being a lot worse. So I think in reality, what he's trying to do is protect them for the first half, try and wear the other team down, and then literally go at them in the second half. And let's be honest, against the big boys, hasn't worked. It's not going to work. We have to go ultra defensive against the big boys. Against the, let's say, the lesser sides, it's worked. And if you look at it, if we only lost to the top 6, as they say, plus Newcastle now, I think that works out to be what? 12 games. We lost 11 last year, and we still made top 4. So, and as it's working out, as someone, I think one of the guest pointers out yesterday, we're still on to make the same number of points as we did last year. And you go, well, you can't. If that's the aim, then tell us it's the aim, and then we won't argue. We have to accept what's going on, and that's the thing. If it wasn't working against the lesser teams, like let's take Bournemouth last week. If it never worked against Bournemouth, everyone would have been like, "You've got to change it up." But it worked, and it keeps working, and that's the problem. It just keeps working.
I mean, that's the dangerous thing, isn't it? It keeps working. Don't change it, but. Yeah, I mean, just a little bit. It wasn't so much that I'm not bothered with his defensive tactics in terms of his formation and defensive tactics. You can have defensive formation, tactics, whatever you want to call it, but still have a positive mindset. I'll go back to the United game. I think we went out there with let's get a draw rather than let's go and win. But you can have a negative setup, but still we're negative. We're going to sit back here, but here's how we're going to win the game. And I think we're going out here, not so much against Bournemouth, going there for 0-0, but let's not concede a goal. Rather than we've got Harry Kane up top, not now, but Son up top. Now we've got Kulusevski back. Let's go and score. This is how we're going to score. And I think just a bit of the closing down and the desire of winning the second balls. The 50-50s, we won every single one of them in the second half. In the first half, we didn't win one of them. And that, to me, isn't tactics. That's mentality and attitude. And that's what's getting me at the moment. Not his tactics, because he is a defensive manager, but you look at his CV, and who are we to contact to change how he plays football, because his CV tells you that he knows what he's doing. Yeah. But it's the mentality. But then the players do have to have some responsibility there themselves. Perisic is experienced. These players can take responsibility themselves. We'll come to Eric Dier in a bit, which obviously everyone knows what's happened with him. I don't. And Harry Kane, he's supposed to be this big leader, and everything like that. Take the game by the scruff of the neck.
Well, it's weird that you say that.
That's what's annoying me at the moment. Not the tactics, not the formation or the way of playing. The mentality is. And if you change the mentality and let's go win the game, I think you'll see a much, much better performance, as well as keeping the defensive solidity. I mean, that's something that hasn't happened. But you know what I mean. At the same time, I think
Conte's worries, and I do kind of agree with him, but I don't at the same time, because I'm not sure what my expectations of the season is right now, because everything's just changed, obviously. But it's a case of, look, when we all asked Mourinho to change it. Remember, we all asked Mourinho to change it. We went to the FA Cup against Everton. He changed it, and we got beat. And we got beat 5-4 in the end.
Yeah.
And that's what we're still. And if you think about it, we're still left with the same centre backs: Sanchez, Dier, Davis, and all those guys are still here. So, and I think if you don't trust your back four, and I think this is where Lloris's mistakes are coming into play as well. I think if you don't trust your back 3, 4, whatever you want to call them, back 5, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to end up happening. You're going to end up making more and more mistakes, especially as a top goalkeeper like Lloris. Now, it'd be quite interesting to see what Lloris would be like with another 2, not even 2, probably another centre-back, because Longley has proved that he can play in that centre. But to be fair to Ben Davis, he's not done much wrong. He hasn't done much wrong. But there needs to be an upgrade there. You can see there needs to be an upgrade there. Longley as well is not the piece that we need.
No.
But you can blatantly see, improve that back line, and I think Spurs' problems will eradicate. And I think we won't be moaning about attacking football. We won't be moaning about, because everything will just slot into place. And even people like Emerson Royale won't be a problem. And the reason why I'm going along that route is Pep Guardiola, first season, right? Straight away, analysed what was wrong with Man City. Went out and bought a whole new back line.
Yeah.
Newcastle, right? Newcastle in January. Where did they spend most of their money?
Yeah.
And look how that's paying dividends for them now. They only added 1 centre-back in the summer, which, by the way, I do not understand why we didn't sign him in Botman. Oh my God, for 30-odd million. Oh my God. And everyone's going and moaning about Newcastle spending money. Oh my God, they literally bought a guy that everyone could afford. Kieran Trippier, Shah's improved dramatically, but even Dan Burn, right? And I look at that back 4 and I literally say, that's better than Spurs' back 5. And at the present moment, Romero is probably the only guy in Spurs right now in our back 5 that will get into Newcastle.
Romero's the guy that we should be must be building our defence around. He's the mainstay there. He's the one who, if you were going to buy a brand new defence, you'd buy a brand new defence excluding Romero, because he's the one that you. But
he's coming down to the rest of the team's level in that defence in the last couple of weeks, and you're going, oh my God, what the hell's going on? And when we get to Dier, Mark Cousins is literally brought up something I tweeted out earlier.
Get the king out of the crowd. He's at every game. So is Mabbott. I mean, brilliant defenders there. I mean, let's just talk about him. Eric Dier. This is his reaction after seeing what his header did. And the Dier. I've got a little bit of sympathy. I'm going to get helpless for this.
No,
I've got a little bit of sympathy here. Not much. Not much, because it was fucking awful.
Yeah.
We're past 10 minutes. I'm allowed to say that. My sympathy is this negative mentality allows players to shirk responsibility, I feel. Against Man United, the negative mentality there allows Bentancur to allow Fernandes to just jog past him, and in the mindset of, oh, it's not my responsibility, someone else will deal with it. So with Dier, the negative mentality is always look back, head it towards Lloris, give it to Lloris. Whereas if it was the second half, which was a positive mentality, I think the responsibility is then with the person who it is with. So Dier wouldn't be going, let's give it to Lloris. It would be, let's boot it clear, get rid of it, and then face up. But having said that, every defender about 20 times a game heads it back to the goalkeeper. It's fucking shocking. Absolutely shocking. But, you can say well done to Salah because he anticipated it and then got his just rewards. But I just think the negative mentality is having a negative effect on the team. And Bentancur has been one of our best players. That letting Fernandes run past him. I don't think that's anything to do with ability. I think that's to do with the negative attitude allows shirking of responsibility. But having said that, before I get a load of pelters, I will reiterate, yes, negative attitude for and mentality. So Dier can go, I'll shirk my responsibility, give it to Lloris. But fucking awful header. Head the ball properly, and you cannot forgive that poor header, despite whether I'm right or wrong with what I say about negative mentality. But I know you wanted to talk about Dier. It's past the 10 minutes, so you can say what you want. Thoughts on Dier?
Just to go back to your point on negative attitude, the problem I have with that is that Eric Dier is culpable for a lot of stupidity defending. Now, we look at he's one of them. He'll come into work and go, I cost you £1 million today, but I've made 800,000 back. But you're going, where the hell is that 200 grand? The 200 grand gone? You're like, hold on. This is Eric Dier. Eric Dier, mistakes. And I think there's a catalogue of errors where Eric Dier has caused Spurs in his whole tenure as a central defender. As a central midfielder, completely different, but as a central defender, he's god awful. He's not a very smart defender, and I think that's what the big issue is here. You look at his decision making, and that decision yesterday was prime Eric Dier. You could do that 9 times out of 10. He's still thinking the same thing. He still head it back, and what I didn't get was when you saw him trying to head it back, who was it? He would have had to have headed that back at some pace to begin with.
I mean, it was a long way out, wasn't it?
Yeah. Where was he? Like, he was never going to get that back to Lloris, right? And I got pelters last year for saying, even when Dier was playing well, that he's still not good enough. He still wasn't good enough last year. He was just playing better. And everyone goes, but we missed Dier and missed this and this, that, and the other. But I also looked at last year. Dier still played against Mora. Dier still played against Middlesbrough. Dier was still in those games where we were absolutely poor and still conceding, but yet people was defending him and going, yes, he had a good end to the season, but so did Sanchez. Sanchez had a good end to the season. And that's what I'm saying. Ben Davies with me, he hasn't done anything wrong. I just know we need an upgrade in that position. But Eric Dier is a constant problem. And I throw this out to anybody, right? Anybody. Everyone goes, look how bad it was in the 90s, right? Whenever you talk to a Spurs fan and talk about leaving in, leaving out, how bad was it in the 90s, right? Our best centre backs in the 90s, growing up, getting back to the Levy days. So first Gary Mabbott, then Judas, then Ledley, on to Jan Vertonghen. I would arguably say that's been our best centre back over those years. Now let's be honest. Does Eric Dier lace any of their boots?
No.
And that's how we got to look at it. We're right now trying to aim for Champions League. And if we're saying it was bad in the 90s, but we had Judas, Mabbott, and all them legends, big players, big game players, and Ledley King and all that, and Dier can't lace their boots, you know where fundamentally our problem is lying at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of comments here. Ian, Tarkowski, Cody were available. Again, they wouldn't, like you said with Botman, none of them would have broken about. I think Tarkowski was free, wasn't he, from Burnley? Simply Ace, Eric Dier always highs under pressure. Romero, Ian, Romero's been poor this season playing for the World Cup. We'll come on to that in a second, that point. That's quite a good point.
I agree.
Simply Ace, Eric Dier plays like a League One centre-back in the Premier League. Always said this. I think with Dier, he's not the worst defender in the world. He's not the best. But if you're wanting to get Champions League year in, year out and progress, he ain't good enough. You need better than that.
If you looked at the Premier League and I asked you this question, which teams does Eric Dier realistically get into? He doesn't get into any of the top 6, does he? Let's be completely honest.
No.
So he's not. So that's Europa League football. Will he get into a West Ham at a push? Is he better than Kurt Zouma? Probably not.
No.
So this is the question you have to ask yourself. He'll probably get into Brighton. Not going to deny that, but I don't know where Brighton are going to finish this season. But if you go start looking for the Premier League table, how many teams does Eric Dier get into? And if Spurs' aspirations are playing Champions League football, Dyer's not your answer. Nor's Ben Davis. Longley probably is.
I think if your aim is 4th, 50-50, you can get away with that. Sometimes you can't with a player like Dier. But like I say, he's not the worst. He's not the best. But if you're wanting to progress from 4th, you've got to get better than Eric
But even then, I ask you the question: since Dier has been centre back for Spurs, and this is centre back, how many times have we qualified for the Champions League since he's been centre back? This is the first. All the other times that we qualified, he was a midfielder.
Yeah, I mean, Paulie here has said he was terrible as a defensive midfielder. His issue is concentration and decision making. I thought he was superb as a defensive midfielder. Then he got the injury and then lost all his pace, turning circle.
Lost confidence and everything with that.
Was it injury or appendicitis or both? I know he had an operation. But
he had a sickness. But I agree with Paulie on that.
Come to Ian's point regarding Romero playing for the World Cup. Eric Dier, since he's got in the England squad, we've seen a couple of mistakes. We've seen mistakes before as well, so I'm not sure it's just. But do you think players are playing for the World Cup? People like Kane aren't. People like Kane are 100 miles an hour, 100% every game. But it's been mentioned.
I disagree with you on that. I don't think Kane's been 100%. Like if you look at the last couple of games, so there was a chance yesterday, right, where Kane was the big man up top. He didn't run. The two players that actually run was Bentancur and Højbjerg. And it happens a lot where Bentancur is running from midfield to pressurize their defense. And Kane doesn't do it as often. I personally think Kane is also playing for the World Cup, but he can get away with it because he's very talented.
Yeah.
He's very talented. And because of the class that he is, right? Because if you look at his Champions League games this year, has he played well in any of them? Yeah, see? But when you look at his goals in the Premier League, he's been absolutely awesome with his goals. But has he, apart from the Newcastle game where I thought he actually played really well, he's not even been burning to get forward and pressurizing. Yeah. And I think Harry Kane's goals are deflecting from his actual performances as a whole. And that's why I slightly disagree with. I think he might be personally playing for the World Cup because
he's always going to struggle as well with a defensive game, isn't he?
Yeah,
certainly the first half, second half he comes.
But he didn't struggle last. He didn't struggle last season when Conte was playing defensive. He was dropping into midfield, getting the ball and playing it to Son. So I think personally he might be playing for the World Cup because this could be his last.
Yeah. Do you think Son was playing for the World Cup? Obviously, the injury is horrific. Do you reckon that's why he was really out of form and everything? Not just because it's a lack of confidence or whatever, but playing for the World Cup, and obviously that's a real big...
Yeah, I think a lot of them are. I think a lot of them are. And he like, Romero's not the only one. I think for us, the problem is that it's our main players. Like, Son is the king of South Korea. Kane is the king of Spurs, but he wants to play for England. And this is probably going to be his last World Cup. You've got Bentancur is probably the only player right now who's probably playing himself into that Uruguay squad going, I'm the only one on form here. But I think a lot of them are. We're not the only ones. I'm not going to lie, we're not the only ones. But that's where we've needed someone like. But Kulu coming on yesterday, I think also changes the dynamics of the game as well. It's difficult. It's difficult. But with the Kane situation, I think he is personally playing for the World Cup. But he can get away with it because of how good he really is.
Yeah, I think the World Cup in the middle of the tournament, I've got a real worry that it'll be a success and they'll do it again and again and again. It's absolutely ridiculous having a World Cup in the middle of the season. All to do with money, absolute disgrace. But simply ace here, moving on. Team on the whole has only played well in about 3 games this season. That's it. If it wasn't for Bentancur, we would have gone out of the Champions League. Guy is class. Only 14-15 million as well. First half. Should we have had a penalty? Here's a clip of it. A still. Obviously, it doesn't really show much, but I was at the other end of the ground, so I thought when it happened, too easy, get up, no penalty. Looking at it on Match of the Day, it's pretty much exactly the same as Cancelo's one against Fulham, where he got sent off. This one, no booking, no foul, nothing. Again, this is the whole VAR thing, consistency. exactly the same thing. One's a sending off and a penalty. The other is nothing. For me, it's one of those ones where if it's against your team, you're furious, but then you're also furious at your defender. Why are you giving these people, these officials, a decision to make? But yeah, what did you think of it, either at the time and watching it back?
So I was like you. I thought it was very soft because I was in the studio with Nick yesterday, and he thought it was a penalty, and I was like, it was a little bit soft. After watching the replay, I went, to be honest, it's enough force to send him down. The only issue that I had then after that is obviously there was the Man City decision the day before with Cancelo. They're exactly the same. They're exactly the same.
Yeah.
And then to find out, to make it even worse, is that the referee in the VAR was the same ref who gave the penalty. So that makes things 10 times worse.
Do you think he's thought, oh, I shouldn't have given that, so it's happened again, I won't give this one because I was wrong last time?
Because the VAR ref could have overruled him and sent him to the monitor, and everyone kind of agreed it was a penalty and he was last man. Yeah. No one actually said it was a terrible decision. Now, the only problem I've got with everyone now calling out for VAR is this is the problem you're going to have if VAR goes. They've left it to the referee and his on-field decision, and it was wrong. Now, if people go in VAR needs to be scrapped, this is what you're going to get. The referee still making bad decisions no matter what way you put it. Right, you're all asking for VAR to come in, but you're also asking VAR to be scrapped. So you've got to make a decision on what you want, right? Because in that situation, everyone's asking for VAR to get involved. But actually, in long term, everyone wants it scrapped. So you have to go to the point of, what do you want? Do you want it or don't you want it? And if you don't want it, you have to accept that decision yesterday.
Yeah, whichever decision people make, I want it or I don't want it, they're going to moan either way. But I think VAR isn't the problem. It's the people making the decisions.
And this is what we need to get behind.
So
I agree with you.
It was brought in to stop things being open to interpretation.
Yeah.
And now it's just open to interpretation with technology there. So nothing has really changed other than the fact it takes 4 minutes now because they're having a look at this replay, that replay, this replay, that replay. And I think they need just one referee who makes the decisions on all the games. This day and age now, you don't ever get really 2 games at the same time. And if you did, what is the likelihood in the 15th minute at exactly the same time, there's 2 decisions, one in each game?
I would, yeah.
That way you would then, I think, it wouldn't be open to it would be open to interpretation, but one person's interpretation. You wouldn't have this referee thinks this referee thinks that, this one's a bit undecided, that one's,
So there's a couple things on that. I would probably go, there needs to be a minute time. There needs to be no longer than a minute. If it goes over that and the referee in the VAR room can't make a decision on it, it goes to whatever the on-field referee has done. The other thing I think is that you can't have the current crop of referees that are doing match days can't be in the VAR room at all because they're all going to protect each other. I think what needs to happen is there's a retirement age for referees, then you keep them on to become a VAR. That's what needs to be to transition. Yeah. Actually get all the old refs to come in because they've all got opinions, then they've all, sometimes we don't like, what's his name? The guy does Sky Sports when he comes in on the Monday and he's always agreeing with the refs. But actually,
Dermot Gallagher, I think.
Dermot Gallagher, yeah. But at the end of the day, if you've got the old school refs coming in and doing that, then you ain't got the referees club and they're all trying to stick up for each other just in case they get it wrong when they do a game. So there's two suggestions. I don't know if it will work because the old referees caused why we want VAR in the first place. But the problem all VAR has highlighted, I think, is that most of the rules that were changed were crap to begin with. Like the offside rules and all that. They've had to just strip it all back. The handball rule and all that.
I don't know the handball rule anymore. I thought the one that Chelsea should have given away a penalty and then it didn't get given.
No,
I thought that was a Stonewall one because his arm's in an unnatural angle out.
But I straight away went, it can't be a penalty because actually the actual hand happens outside the box. Even though his feet are inside it, apparently because his hand, the actual contact with his hands outside the box, you can't give a penalty.
I thought it was a definite foul, but I'm assuming VAR is only for penalties, goals, sendings off, and which is, again, another stupid thing. You've got all these replays. You're happy to waste 4 minutes when a goal's been scored. Just waste 2 minutes or a minute when someone, But anyway.
Yeah, VAR is a difficult one, but on a serious note, we go 1-1 at half time. Does that change the game? Does it change the dynamics? Does it change what Klopp does? It's one of them hypothetical questions. At the end of the day, we came out in the second half completely on top. I personally think, and I know a lot of people think different, but I personally think the only reason why we got on top, Klopp changed his tactics in the second half. He was like, I'm going to defend this lead, give Tottenham the ball. I've seen them what they're like with the ball. They're not great. Kulu's on the bench anyway. They've got no Mora. Perisic, I thought, didn't actually come into the game until he went on the left. And I told a lot of people we should have played Perisic on the left and played Cess up top just for pace, right? If they're going to
let's talk about Perisic. You've got in ahead of me. You've seen my things before. Yeah, Perisic up top, very weird one. I mean, he did not hit the post. He was in there to allow Alisson to hit the post, and he should have scored with the one on the bar in the second half. But
I think personally, it wasn't a weird to put him up. When you say weird, I think we all forget that's where he used to play. He used to play on the left, the free. So it's kind of like you kind of expected it. Okay. But if I'm looking at the bigger picture, and I'll ask you this question: who's been the better left wing back this season, Cess or Perisic? And you'd probably say Perisic. So why just not put Cess up top?
Yeah.
Why? We've got nothing to lose. Cess played there for Fulham as well, and you could see in that first half we were just missing pace. Kane hasn't got it. Yeah. Perisic hasn't got it. The two midfielders you're asking then to Højbjerg ain't got pace. Bentancur's actually deceptively really quick. But you're asking them Cess to then support them, but Cess hasn't done that all season.
No, he's lacking confidence, isn't he? So it's a good idea that you've got there, because him up top, it takes away the pressure of if I go too far forward, lose it, then I'm caught defensively. And I've got a friend who's a Fulham fan. When we first signed Sessegnon, he told me he's not a wing back, he's not a full back, he's a winger. No. I didn't even think of that, to be honest, during the game.
To be honest, I play him there. I would try him out there against Forest on Wednesday. If this is the best time to do it. But we don't have no one to cover him though in left wing back, because we're stuck unless Doherty can play there. And
Davies can, but then you obviously it's Sanchez to come in if someone gets injured. Romero's already injured,
but I've answered my own question, because Doherty can play there and Spence can play right wing back. Because if we don't see Spence on Wednesday, you're kind of going curtains. But I think we've got to try Cess at top. I really think we've got to try it, because we've gone down every avenue. I don't know. It's Conte, isn't it?
Tommy was mentioning it on WhatsApp earlier. He's so stubborn, Conte, and we've seen that before.
But is it stubbornness or is it don't trust your players? Because we're all asked. Because you think of it like this: how many of us asked for 3-5-2? How many of us asked for 3-5-2? We've gone to 3-5-2. We haven't won a game with it.
You can argue that we won the game against Everton when we switched to 3-5-2. But starting from it is
It's one of them. He's willing to change it if he's got the players. He's willing to change it, but it's a case of it's not stubbornness. It's knowing what you've got. I think, and I think a lot of us are asking. A lot of us Spurs fans think we know better, and when it comes down to it, we don't see them in training every day. The only thing that obviously we are questioning is the whole Royale situation. But even then...
let's talk about that. Is Conte having an affair and Royale's caught him on camera? I'll get in every single game.
But I'll ask you this question. You go to the Marseille game.
Oh, yeah. He was much, much better there. Cess was almost in over his head.
But even Perisic went out there and he wasn't. And this is what I'm saying. Royale is even though... It's a case of we know how bad Royale, and I think the crowd were really wrong to get on his back yesterday, because up until that point, he actually wasn't having a terrible game. He just wasn't getting forward. But that's the problem. Royale can't cross, and as soon as the crowd did that, he played the simple pass. He had no choice but to bring Doherty on. Yeah. Personally, I would play Doherty at home and Royale away, because Doherty could crap away from home. He seems to do better when he's in front of the White Hart or Tottenham Hotspur crowd.
My issue with Doherty, you mentioned it there, Emerson can't cross the ball. They make the same runs. There were elements yesterday and Man United, another game. Doherty makes good runs in space. No one looks to him to give him the ball. Emerson's out there who can't cross the ball. They can't wait to give the guy the ball. I don't understand it. Doherty can. He's second most assisted defender behind Alexander-Arnold in his last season at Wolves. So he can do that, but they don't ever want to do it. And the same with Sessegnon when he played on the right against Sporting, I think it was. But yeah, Emerson, they want to give the guy the ball at every opportunity, knowing full well that the guy can't cross it.
But he's got a lot of space, isn't he? Because teams have now worked it out.
Yeah.
Give the ball to Real. How many times has he really put in a good cross?
There was one point yesterday, I can't remember exactly when, it was obviously in the second half, but Doherty had so much space.
Yeah.
He's not even a look up to see where he was. It went back to Dier or Lenglet or something like that, and then went out to Cess again. Absolutely bizarre.
I think the problem was when Doherty came on, and to be honest, and it's probably why Doherty played a lot better. He got Kulu. Real didn't get Kulu. So, and let's be honest, when Real's played decent games, it has been next to Kulu. Like even you look at the first game. Was it the first game of the season against Southampton? Real wasn't terrible. It was just the fact he had Kulu. So maybe that's what we need to look at. Actually, we need to start putting Real with a decent right winger, and it may work. But at the end of the day, with all our right wing backs are not no good, and I don't think Spencer's the answer. Spence coming in ain't going to improve Dier, is it?
I'd like to see him give a chance. We'll talk about the Forest game a bit later, but if Emerson plays in that one, I think I'll give up. But let's go on a positive note. You already mentioned him. He's back. Kulu is back. 2 minutes in, an assist. But it wasn't so much the assist. I mean, the pass looked fairly easy, but it's just Kane's there. Kane's going to get your goals, put it into his thing without thinking about it. I'm not going to see what I can do.
Finish.
And Kulu is such a breath of fresh air that he's back.
It shows you how important
he should start against Forest. He should start against Forest, get his fitness up, and then play as much of the game as he can against Leeds, especially with Son out. But even if Son was there, you need Kulu in there. He's 22, this guy, and he's probably our most important player, certainly going forward. And I talked about the negative mentality. This guy is the complete opposite. I don't think I've ever seen him play a backwards pass. It's always get the ball, take someone on, have a shot, whip a crossing. And that positive play is going to make players run into the box, try and gamble because they know that ball's coming in. And from history that we've seen since he's been here, it's going to be a quality ball. And I mean, how important is this 22-year-old, 17 years younger than myself? How important is this guy in our team?
He's important to a very important player in a Conte system. And it's so weird that it took us 2 months of missing him to realise how important he is. And he's not just important to Kane and he's not just important to the team, he's important to Kane and Son. And the only thing I say to you and why he's so positive, if you had to pass it back to Doherty or bloody Royale, you'd probably just cross it in the box and hope for the best. But no, on a serious note, 2 minutes in and he plays that pass, you've just got to go. But then you look at it and go, our injury list, if Arsenal had the same amount of injuries, if Newcastle had the same amount of injuries, even though they've had quite a few themselves, but defensively and going forward and was missing important players, would they struggle as well? And
I think everyone would, wouldn't they?
Yeah. We're missing, and like you got to remember now, we're playing Kane every game. We were moaning before that he weren't coming off this now, but actually you saw how important Richarlison was in the sense of that he could come on and change it up and do things slightly different, and with Son as well. But we missed Son on Sunday. No matter how bad he's been playing.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. No pace. Even if he's playing poor, we've got to be careful of this guy because he is rapid.
Mm-hmm. So it's a case. It's but yeah, having Kulu back, it's just a relief.
I think though I said the negative mentality and all the slow pass, very slow side to side. I think with Kulu in there, that will instantly boost that up because what's the answer? Give it to Kulu.
Yeah,
and the passing will be quicker to get it to him, especially if he's in space 1-on-1. And then therefore, I think the tempo of passing will instantly get quicker. I mean, I could be wrong because he has been playing earlier in the season when the first halves we were terrible, but I don't remember it being that bad. We still had chances in those halves, in those games, but it was a little while ago, so I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that.
I take you back to the Leicester game where he puts in the cross for Harry Kane, I think it was.
the corner,
yeah. So, and that was the equaliser at the time, and it's the stuff like that which is so important. Like, totally agree with you.
Yeah, I can't believe how it's not even a year. It's become so important to us. And just that energy he has is infectious to the rest of the team. It's very similar to what Lamela did when he was playing. It's just Kulu has got so much more quality. But Hill against Sporting Lisbon, I thought he brought the energy as well, exactly like Kulu. Obviously, Kulu is a much better player and a lot stronger as well. But in the terms of how they play and what he tried to do, it's exactly like Kulu. So I'm surprised he hasn't started more games. I know he's lightweight and everything, but yeah, I mean, coming on to
go on.
Oh no, carry on.
I was going to say the only thing with Hill, the only thing I'd say about Hill was I'm not surprised he hasn't played in the Premier League. But going back to when you said how he came on against Lisbon, I agree with you. He brought in energy, but if you notice, he didn't go and play on the right. He ended up playing behind Kane, which completely helped his game. And maybe that's what the answer is. He is that cam that we're looking for. I know he's coming as a winger, but actually the way the Premier League is, maybe he is more suited to playing behind the striker, having two solid players behind him, and then let him go and be free. And actually, you could probably have him, Kulu, and Kane as a free. It could work. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there, but Conte knows.
I mean, next we got Forest. That's Carabao Cup.
Yep.
Absolutely ridiculous. The first round of the Carabao Cup is in November. You might as well call it in December because there's a month off now. Absolutely ridiculous in a competition that historically the final was in February. I'm not sure when the final is, but
is it? And even the fourth round is straight after Christmas, isn't it? So, we'll see how this one works. There's no
let up in fixtures, but Forest away. Obviously, on paper, you'd be thinking we win that. We beat them earlier, albeit quite luckily in that one. And that was when their 500 new players were getting to grips with each other. They have done now. I think Forest, though, will play a different team and a weaker team just because winning a cup isn't their priority. Staying in the league's their priority. For us, well, Conte's priority is winning a league, isn't it? But that's not going to happen, I don't think. But winning a cup definitely should be in priority. And this Carabao Cup is a good chance of doing that. Do you think he'll experiment with his team? Do you think he'll play as strong as he can? I think it'll be a bit of both. I'd like to see Spence play just to see what he can do.
Yeah.
I think Hill deserves a chance. Kulu, I mean, he's not going to drop Kane, is he? Kulu up top.
Let's be honest. Who else can we play?
Yeah, he ain't going to
be back. Yeah, Kane's got to play because it's him or we just don't go there with a striker.
Yeah, I think Kulu has to play minimum of an hour.
Yeah.
Just to get his fitness up. And Mark Cousins here. Surely Jed gets a game against Forest. I'll be pretty annoyed if he doesn't, just to see what he can do. Yeah. Sanchez, I think, will probably play in the middle. I reckon Skip will probably start. I think it'll be a bit 50-50 in terms of first team players and players. But
I think Dier will start. I think look, this team that I'll go through the team that I think he'll go for. Forster in goal.
You reckon he'll change Lloris?
I think he will change Lloris. If Forster we need to see what Forster can do, because if there's a chance that we can change Lloris for a couple games and take him out, let's see. Forster's a good keeper. He's not, so let's do it now. I think he'll go with Sanchez, Dier, and Davis. I think that will be his back three. Thinking about it now, I think he'll put Doherty on the left, Spence on the right. I think Skip will play. I think Højbjerg might play. I don't think Bentancur will.
Bissouma?
That's a good point. Bissouma, so it'd be Bissouma and Skip. You're right.
Yeah. Ian said here, what about Sarr? He's been on the bench quite a lot.
I don't think he'll risk Sarr, because I don't think there's no intention of ever playing him. Because you got Bissouma, you got Højbjerg, you've got Bentancur, and you've got Skip. And I think at the end of the day, unless there's a major injury, he'll either go free in midfield or he'll stick with the two. And that's how we'll go. I think Kulu will play and probably Kane. I don't think Hill will start, if I'm being completely honest. But I'd like to see Hill behind Kulu and Kane. To be honest, I'd like to see Hill and Kulu probably play as the three. but he might go with Cess. I think Cess might be in there.
Yeah, I did think about maybe Harvey White, but I think
no, he's not going to go that. He's not going to go that.
But I think this is a real opportunity to win a cup, not to experiment stuff. But again, if that's going to happen, send the kid out on loan, get him some experience, like Dane Scarlett has got now. Because I know, no, it's Alfie Devine. Sorry, he is on loan, but Harvey White's meant to be highly rated as well. But I don't think he'll. I think he'll. Like I said, first teamers and fringe players, but the fringe players, the ones that we know, rather than I agree with you about Sarr. I don't think he'll play, but the only player that we haven't really seen who I think will be Jed Spence. I think the others will be your Skips, maybe Basuma's.
I think Basuma had a great game against Liverpool, and I think let's keep the momentum going. I think you're right. I think Basuma might play. I completely forgot about him. I just assumed, to be honest, because he's just so in and out of the team. But it's but the only problem we've got, and one thing we've got to be careful of is that we're saying that Forest are going to be weak, but you got to remember a lot of these players probably haven't played a lot either. So a lot of them be trying to prove themselves to get in that first team. I totally agree. He's going to change that 11 because he can, and two, they need to concentrate on the league. But there'll be some players going, I should be in that 11 because let's be honest, half of them are not that good as well. So, and a lot of them can prove, and getting a scalp against Tottenham and that crowd will be up for it again. Could be interesting.
Well, that could benefit us in a sense that, or it could hinder us. I mean, they attack, we sit back, play on the counter. But it could be an entertaining kind of end-to-end game. Them trying to score, if it is the fringe players, Forest trying to impress, like you say, and get into the first team, into Cooper's plans for the first team. How do you see the game panning out? Obviously, it's very difficult when we have no idea what the team is going to be. In the league, you generally know what the team is going to be with a few tweaks here or there. But how do you see us approaching this game, or do you think it will be another curse of the first half nonsense?
I think it'll be exactly the same. We won't see anything different. I think we'll play very similar. Do you remember when we got Wolves last year in the Cup under Nuno, and we just needed to get that? He just needed to get a win. I think it'll be very similar to that. It'll be frustrating. We'll be going, oh my God, this is painful to watch. But I think we'll somehow get it over the line. But I don't even know. But because I just don't know. It just don't know what Spurs is going to turn up. And because can the second string, or can we call it the second string, can they do exactly what the first team is doing? Not play the first half and play the second half? Probably not. So it'd be weird. It's going to be interesting. But there'll be a lot of younger players out there, so maybe they can run a bit more than.
Yeah. But again, with your point on Forest and the other players coming in, people like a Skip. I've no doubt in my mind, Skip thinks he can get into this first team. Let's hit the ball quickly, although he hasn't done a huge amount. Who was it he had the shot against? Bournemouth, wasn't it, in the first half?
Oh, no, Bournemouth, you're right.
Travers put it round the corner.
He's been poor, though.
Yeah. I mean, he has come back from an injury, but it's games like this. Take the game by the scruff of the neck. I've got no doubt Skip will be starting.
Yeah,
take the game by the scruff of the neck. I definitely think if you've got Kulu there, it will make us think, hit the ball quickly, fast tempo to give it to him rather than side. Here you go, Kulu, two players round him.
I wouldn't even be surprised if Kulu's on the bench, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. But again, like I said, who am I to question Conte and his CV? But for me, he's such an important player. He did look a bit out of sorts when he came on, but he's been out for however long to match. So for me, give him an hour, maybe 70, 75 minutes, but
that's if he has that in him. Yeah, and this is the thing, because a lot of people are calling out if he's good enough, if he's fit enough to be on the bench, he's fit enough to start. But he'd already said in the pre-conference before, he only had half an hour in him. He was always going to come on in the 60th minute. And this is that you've got to ease players back into it. And with Kulu, it's very serious. He's been out for 2 months.
Yeah,
you can't just rush him back, and I will completely understand if he's not starting tomorrow. I don't want it. Not tomorrow, Wednesday, but let's see what happens. It'd be quite interesting. I think all of us are totally. Do you know what? I don't mind if he experiments against Forest, because unless he wants to win it, then okay, go put the first team out. But I'm expecting then he's got to start changing his ways in the league. At the end of the day, it's full spot over for us. Not yet, but he's got to make a decision now. Does he want a cup or does he want a full spot?
Yeah,
Because we can't do both.
Yeah, I mean, how do you see this World Cup going? Because it could very well be none of our players get injured. All of our rivals, City, Arsenal, Newcastle, Chelsea, get injuries, and that Liverpool, and that derails them. But it could also happen the other way round. Heaven forbid, Kane gets a big injury. Kulu can't because they're not in it. So that's good. He gets, like Haaland, he gets a month off. Although I think Salah, I don't think Egypt are in it either. So Salah gets a month off. How do you see? And I definitely think in March there'll be fatigue. So therefore, in January, I think we'll be absolutely mad with players coming in and out because teams will be thinking we're going to have fatigued players in March. We need extra players and extra squad depth. And I think that'll be us. And I think that'll be other teams as well. How do you see the World Cup kind of affecting the season?
I think we're going to get quite lucky in the sense of we're only going to see one player progress literally from the last
Harry? Is that?
No, Richarlison. I think apart from him, I think England ain't going to play so well. So I think we might get quite lucky with England. I think Son is not going to get out the group stage. I think Bentancur might make it.
Son, I would be absolutely amazed if he plays, which is obviously...
He's going to play. He's going to play no matter what. Even if his brother comes out and plays, or his dad.
I read if it's a clean fracture, then he can play in, like Harry Kane's mask. If it's a non-clean fracture, whatever the medical term is, which is apparently what it looks like, no chance. But if he doesn't play, South Korea out.
Well, I don't think they're going to. I don't think they would have gone through anyway. But they've got a hard group. They've got Bentancur in that group as well. But I think we're going to get quite lucky that most of our players will go out in the group stage. I think Højbjerg with Denmark ain't going to survive. England might get out, but then I think we'll lose them in the next round if they get anybody decent. So I think we're going to get quite lucky with this World Cup because most of our players are not in form sides. The only person I can see staying on, but it's a benefit if he does, is Richarlison.
Yeah, I think with the World Cup as well, you know how you have games, whole half times come at the wrong time, killed on momentum. I think the World Cup could have that effect on Arsenal. Certainly if they come back and then they lose the first two games. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. I don't want another St. Tottenham's Day, being that we haven't had one for about 5 years. But,
we're getting one this year now. We're done.
I'm pretty sure. I'm quite worried they will win the league. I'm hoping that...
No. I don't think they'll win the league. But they'll finish above us. But if they're going to do anything, if they're going to win the league, I tell you now, Conte, just go and win the Champions League. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you cheat. If you get you and Paratici have to pay off a few referees, just go and win the Champions League. And I don't care in years to come, it comes out that we did this, right? Just don't have it that if they win the league, that we don't. Because if we win the Champions League and they win the league, we're not going to hear from them. They literally will just get back in their box.
Well, we'll hear from them for about a week, won't we, before?
But no, they'll keep it quiet because they'll be slightly worried that we might. Remember how they were when they got to the Europa League final? They kept it quiet for a few days and then they came out of their box.
I'm slightly worried, but I'm hoping the World Cup derails their momentum and
look, they've got big games. They've got
I saw the Chelsea game. I thought that was a banana skin for them. I mean, Chelsea played like we do in the first half. They didn't turn up at all. But it's still a game that Arsenal in seasons gone by play well, the other team don't play well. They still mess it up.
They've won the last 3 years there. It's Chelsea for them. Stamford Bridge for them is easy. And that's what I said, like the games they've had all their big teams at home. And then they got the only two teams they got away was Chelsea and United. And they lost to United. Chelsea, they go to Stamford Bridge every year and win. They went there for the last 3 seasons and won at Stamford Bridge. Done.
Yeah.
So, don't. It's not going to be a Leicester. People don't worry. Man City are not going to derail that much.
No, I think Haaland having a month off as well is just scary. But in terms of the World Cup, Jens, how you doing? Jens? Denmark may bring a few surprises. Bit biased though.
I wonder why. No.
So you've upset Jens. Spurs have upset
all
of us.
Jens, but I'm thinking about Spurs first. I'm sorry.
But it's also worth being said. Other than Liverpool. We've played and Man City because it was cancelled. Apart from Liverpool and Man City, we've played all of the top Newcastle now as well. But in terms of the West Ham, I class as a big game just because of the rivalry. Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, all played away from home. We've got them at home, but then obviously Sunday, yesterday doesn't fit with much.
I wouldn't be surprised if we went to St James's Park and turned them over. I wouldn't be surprised. It'd be typical Spurs, because we generally don't do well against Newcastle at home anyway. I think last year was the first win or decent game we've had against Newcastle at home in a while. So it swings and roundabouts. So let's just hope. It's
going to be very interesting come January and certainly after the World Cup, because the World Cup will have a huge effect on the season, I think, and season like no other. But yeah, we've pretty much reached the end. Said it would be a short show. Thankfully, it's a short show because we don't have to talk about Tottenham losing to Liverpool too much. If we'd have beaten Liverpool, I'd be going on for another hour. But Marlon, thanks so much for coming on. Been on plenty of times before. Thanks to everybody in the comments as well, adding comments. Please hit the like before you go. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe and notification bell. Really helps the channel. Closing in on 300 subscribers. If you like a bit of magic, got a side channel, Chris's Magic, one magic trick a week, Wednesdays, 7:30 p.m. That's when it drops. So go check that out. Obviously, this show as well. And Marlon's show, A View from the South Stand. Where can people find that, and what can they expect in the next few weeks or so?
Yeah, so actually, because of YouTube have now added handles as well. So my handle in the description, you can actually put that after the YouTube, and you'll come to the thing. It's now called A View from the South Stand TV as well. You'll see us. There's a couple of hosts on there. I tend to do mostly the league games. We've got Hass as well. We've had a good couple of weeks on the show. We get different guests. We don't try and keep the same guest every week. It gives a different opinion, and obviously we got season ticket holders on for it when we're playing away, and then we get people that are watching it from home for the home games, depending on travel. But yeah, so many different opinions. And yeah, Ian's one of my guests as well, and hopefully I can get him on this week so he can actually speak to me this time, because I haven't spoken to him for a very long time. But come over. It's a great show, and make sure you like and subscribe to Chris's channel. Both of them, it's a good channel.
Cheers, buddy. Yeah, been great talking to you. I've been on there a few times, spoken to you on yours a couple of times, and Tommy's as well. Always good talking to you. And yeah, thanks again for coming on. Cheers, Jens. Cheers, everybody in the chat. As I said, Nottingham Forest. Let's hope we can win that. League has gone for me. But a cup is still on the cards. Obviously, you'd want the Champions League, but to be honest, any cup would do for me. So if that's a League Cup, the Carabao Cup, the EFL Cup, whatever it's called now, I'll take that in a heartbeat. But yeah, hit the like, hit the subscribe, go on to Chris Magic, do the same. Then go on to View from the South Stand TV, do the same there. You know the drill by now. Like, subscribe, notification bell, and yeah, you know the drill by now. Let's hope on Wednesday we can get a win. So on Friday's show is a happy show, and I'm looking forward to the Leeds game. But yeah, that'll be 12:30 on Friday. And yeah, Ian's in Spain, so if he's around,
he's always in Spain. Ian, you holiday too much.
It's great to meet you yesterday, Ian, as well. Hopefully, do that again at some point as well. And yeah, Forest, let's get a win. Let's give Jed Spence a go. A few others go. Get Kulu some fitness up. Let's win that. Let's keep ourselves in the cup, and then let's go and beat Leeds. And as always, come on, you Spurs. Thanks so much for watching. For everybody who joined in the live chat and added comments, before you go, please leave a like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, please hit that notification bell. That'll give you a notification every time we're about to go live, and it's all completely free. For those who missed the live show, you can catch this whenever you want on Let's Talk Tottenham's YouTube channel. Please also hit the like, subscribe and notification bell, and everybody please leave feedback, comments, suggestions in the comments section on the YouTube videos. For those of you who listen to the audio podcast, thank you so much for listening. Anyone who wants that audio podcast, you can pick that up wherever you get your podcast from. We're back Mondays 7:30 p.m. UK time and Fridays 12:30 p.m. UK time. Alternatively, if you go to Twitter at @LTalkTottenham or Instagram, Let's Talk Tottenham Podcast, you'll find all the information there. Anyone who wants something a little bit different, also do a magic show. So I do one trick a week, which drops Wednesday 7:30 p.m. UK time. Chris's Magic on YouTube is where you'll find that. But in the meantime,